Have you ever thought about not existing? Not about what happens after you die, but simply nothing. If there was absolute nothingness, how can you perceive nothing going on? How can you perceive yourself not existing? If you have ever tried this, or better yet, if you're trying it now that I've mentioned it, you'll understand that you can't. Your brain cannot think about nothing. Your brain cannot convince itself to not exist for a second just so you can understand what that would feel like. In fact, you might even be thinking about this and be afraid of it. Maybe some of you have clicked off because you don't want to hear about this. And in all honesty, I wouldn't blame you if you did. The thoughts of nothing, the thoughts of not existing, of death, of losing your memory, these are all things that have terrified humans since the dawn of time. But I have to ask you, what would it take for you to want that? For you to want to not exist, not literally not exist, and not by dying, but to forget something, an event maybe. But in order to forget that event, you have to forget 10 years, 20 years, maybe even the entirety of your life. What would it take to give up all of those memories in exchange for one?
19th of August, 1839. I wish I could ask how much you remember. I don't know if there will be anything left after I consume this drink. Don't be afraid, Daniel. I can't tell you why, but know this. I choose to forget. Try to find comfort and strength in that fact. There is a purpose. You are my final effort to put things right. God willing, the name Alexander of Bennenburg still invokes bitter anger in you. If not, this will sound horrible. Go to the inner sanctum, find Alexander, and kill him. His body is old and weak, and yours, young and strong. He will be no match for you. One last thing. A shadow is following you. It's a living nightmare, breaking down reality. I have tried everything, and there is no way to fight back. You need to escape it as long as you can. Redeem us both, Daniel. Descend into the darkness where Alexander waits and murder him. Your former self, Daniel.
When I posed the question earlier about what it would take to trade away all of your memories for one, most of, if not all of you, probably said nothing. And I'm of the opinion that this is the correct answer, but not for Daniel. In the note that Daniel wrote to himself, he says, "I can't tell you why, but know this. I choose to forget." And even though Daniel chose to forget, based off of what he says in the intro to the game, he hasn't forgotten all of it. And in fact, he seems to have remembered most of what's in this note.
Don't forget, some things mustn't be forgotten. The shadow hunting me. I must hurry. My name is Daniel. I live in London at Mayfair. What have I done? This is crazy. Don't forget. Don't forget. I must stop him. Focus. My name is... I am Daniel. "16th of May, 1839. The unflinching African sun has continued to plague our expedition, making it impossible to dig until dusk. How Professor Herbert managed to find the location in these vast plains of nothingness remains a mystery to me. When I asked him about the tomb again, he told me about the legend of Tin Hanan, the mother of us all. An interesting story in its own right, but I can't help feeling there's more. Later that evening, we uncovered a passage beneath the dunes leading to a sand-covered stone structure. The professor was confident it was the tomb we sought and ordered the others to clear the way late into the dark, cold night. Tomorrow, I shall lead the men into the ancient structure, hoping to reach the burial chamber. No matter what the Professor is keeping from me, the dig should yield something interesting to take back to London and the British Museum.
Just 3 months before Daniel's note to self, he was doing relatively normal things, being an archaeologist and digging through the desert to try and find relics. But it would be at this point, after entering the passage and discovering what's inside, where Daniel's life would change forever.
17th of May, 1839. My hands tremble as I write. I feel a need to document my tribulation, for I fear that my memory will fail me if I linger. Today, I took some men and ventured into the dark, ancient passage we uncovered. Our torches burned faintly in the murky air as we slowly made our way underground. The men were superstitious and fearful. They argued loudly, and I felt their strange language getting to me. I mustered my strength and yelled at them to continue down the slopes and broken steps. The crudely carved passage confused me. It looked much older than the 4th century structure we had expected. The twisting path emerged into a great antechamber. The walls were lined with statues unlike any I'd ever seen. Despite their unearthly quality, I felt a strange familiarity toward them, which haunts me still. At the far end of the chamber, a great slab of stone sealed off whatever lay ahead. I gave the order to raise it, and as I pushed through the narrow space, the heavy stone suddenly dropped, sealing me inside. I was trapped. May 1839. After pounding the unforgiving stone wall for what seemed like an eternity, I realized it was hopeless. I was trapped. I fell to the ground, gasping for air, trying to focus. That's when I saw a faint blue shimmer. My weakened body was heavy to carry, but I managed to push myself toward the enchanting light. It was waiting for me. Enclosed in dark nothingness, I felt myself drawn to the mystic light. I reached out, closing it in my hands. The faint glow escaped my fingers and began to spark brightly and spirit me away, unlocking alien memories of spiraling towers, endless deserts, and impossible geometry. The next thing I can remember is the grating sound of stone being lifted, the voices of the Arabs pulling me to safety, and grasped firmly in my hands was the broken pieces of a most peculiar relic.
Finding this orb would serve as the catalyst for most of Daniel's life-altering events. The most notable and cataclysmic ordeal to come from this is the Shadow, and more specifically, the Shadow's never-ending pursuit of Daniel. And outside of finding out about Daniel's less than ideal life events that he went through, we also find out about some less than savory actions that have gone on here at Bennenburg Castle. To begin, we will start with Wilhelm's contract, a note that we picked up a little bit earlier on in the game. I hereby offer my full attention and services to Alexander, Baron of Bennenburg. This contract will reign for a total of 3 years when my freedom shall return to me. In addition, Alexander, Baron of Bennenburg, is to recommend my services at the Prussian royal court and within the sanctum of the Order of the Black Eagle. May no man break the seal. Wilhelm, House of Gerich. Despite the lengthy 3-year contract, it would seem as though things didn't pan out so well, as described by Alexander in his note regarding closing of the wine cellar. Wilhelm and his fools have endangered my research long enough with their absent-minded handling of the human vessels. The sheriff is keeping a watchful eye on the forest, and is killing my trusty servants. It's just a matter of time until they follow the trail to Brennenburg. I need to lock Wilhelm and his men up to avoid further investigation from the public. The wine cellar will therefore be sealed off until the matter has been handled. Either the king's men leave, or they will starve. Whatever comes first. They can rot for all I care. Maybe I will feed them some wine. It would, in a sense, solve both of my problems.
Where did the Baron go?
Who cares? He left us enough wine to last us a lifetime. Or at least until tomorrow.
According to Alexander, Wilhelm and his men endangered his research with their absent-minded handling of the human vessels. The human vessels will be explained a little bit later on as to what they were used for. As for now, in Wilhelm's last words, he will describe how they went about getting these vessels and also explaining the nature of his 3-year contract and what that entailed. Before this, I want to briefly talk about the 2 flashback sequences here. The first being the one that I showed at the start of this segment. The flashback contained dialogue between 2 of what is presumably Wilhelm's men talking about the amount of wine down in the cellar. They also mention that the Baron is nowhere to be found. Which brings us back to Alexander's previous note where he says, maybe I will feed them some wine. It would in a sense solve both of my problems.
What's happening? Oh, feels like my chest is going to burst.
My God! Wilhelm, do something!
Except we're not getting out of here.
How can you say that? Alexander, you piece of shit! Let us out of here!
Wilhelm accepts the fact that he's going to die, and instead of fighting back and trying to escape, he goes about writing his final words on a desk in the next room over. Those final words read, "My name is Wilhelm, House of Garage. These are my final words, my confession and testament. 2 years ago, I was summoned to the castle Bennenburg. As most of the aristocracy, I was curious about what this supposed Knight of the Order could want from me and accepted the invitation. The Baron was friendly and offered me a proposition. It dawned on me that the nature of the contract was sordid, and that the reason I was chosen was because of the follies of my past, and not the honors I've been rewarded with during my time as a soldier. I was to kidnap healthy humans upon his slightest whim, and do so without asking questions. In return, he would attest to my character at the royal court, advancing my position with noble society. I would like to claim that I struggled with my decision, but it came swiftly and I accepted wholeheartedly. Ever since that day, I've brought men, women, and children to Brennenburg. I can't remember the number, but there were many, perhaps even 100, none of whom were ever seen or heard from again. Tonight, the Baron invited me and my men down to the wine cellar to celebrate our work. I had my suspicions as we descended the stairs, but he insisted and joined us in a toast. The wine tasted fine and the men drank without restraint. So begins the punishment for our sins. The Baron has locked us up and returned upstairs. Forgive me for what I have done. I was weak and fell into his diabolical ways. My men are screaming. Their skin has been pierced by their own tangled bones. I feel my insides revolt against their God-given nature. Blood has begun to pour from my eyes, and I can no longer.
22nd of June, 1839. It's been more than a month since my last entry. After the event inside the underground chamber in Algeria, Professor Herbert insisted I return to England. He said he didn't want to risk forfeiting the entire expedition lest I took a turn for the worse. An excessive decision, in retrospect. But I'm glad it turned out that way. I found my journal this morning in the haphazard collection of things brought home from Africa. Next to it lay the broken stone orb wrapped in cloth. I tried to assemble it, but couldn't. The pieces wouldn't fit together, as if they weren't from the same object. Could I have imagined it all? Was there ever a complete orb? 25th of June, 1839. I feel the need to continue this journal, even though it was intended for my journey to Africa. This must be something very important. I just know it. I've taken it upon myself to piece the orb back together, but it's been more difficult than one might think. The pieces are behaving strangely. They seem to change color, shape, and texture, but ever so slightly. Yesterday, I took careful measurements and notated any significant markings. Today, I confirmed my suspicions. They were changing. I was terrified and rushed off to see the finest geologist in London, Sir William Smith. I approached the subject with care, and we discussed how rocks change form. He told me about the nature of glass, how it eventually collapses on itself, like ice slowly melting over the course of centuries. Smith eased my mind a bit, but I can't escape the feeling that these shards have otherworldly properties.
These otherworldly properties will show up in multiple different ways in the next few diary entries. These otherworldly ideas, though, started off pretty minuscule, at least in comparison, a few entries back when Daniel describes touching the orb for the first time and seeing shapes and structures that are otherworldly, and even up to our most recent entries where he describes the pieces as seemingly always changing. So much so that he says that the pieces simply wouldn't fit together. He also has to call into question whether he imagined it all or whether he ever had a completed orb at all. Within Daniel's next set of diary entries, however, these ideas will be called into question even further, as they will reveal both the fate and discoveries of Herbert and his expedition after Daniel was sent home.
My journal is gone. What would they want with my journal? July 1839. I received a letter today from the Algerian governor's office disclosing the fate of Herbert's expedition. About a week after my departure, Abdullah, one of the men traveling with us, returned from the desert. He was badly injured, as if maimed by a lion. The man rambled deliriously about the expedition being attacked by something horrible. The French quickly dispatched a search party to look for the expedition. After searching for days, they found the camp abandoned without any trace of Herbert or his men. Tomorrow, I'll retrieve the things they recovered from Herbert's tent at the customs house. I don't know what to make of it, but I'm worried for him. July 3rd, 1839. Today I picked up Herbert's things at the customs house. I dug through the trove of documents he had carried and found a log detailing the expedition. The nature of this text ranged from quick notes to colourful accounts of transpired events. I skimmed the pages, trying to figure out what might have happened. May 17th, the day I was trapped inside the orb chamber, Herbert dryly states, "Recovered Daniel after 1 hour of entrapment." This confused me greatly. I was suffocating within minutes. How could I have lasted an hour? I continued reading the peculiar text. Herbert states his facts without judgment or passion, but suddenly I could read frustration into his text. He pushed his men to investigate the underground tomb, an effort which seems to have strained the minds of his men. Madness spread through the ranks, and Herbert had to take some extreme measures to continue. He finally visits the chamber himself, where he retrieves the orb to the surface. His account confuses me greatly. If he has the orb, what are those pieces in my drawing room? The key. Please, let it be here. July 4th, 1839. It's done. The orb is assembled. I was awakened by an exhausting nightmare. Shaking and sweating, I retired to the drawing room with a cup of tea. The relic pieces lay spread across the table as I'd left them, but somehow I knew how it was supposed to be. I fetched the tar, which I had prepared to fix the pieces together, and without fault I joined them, producing the orb I remembered so clearly. The tar proved unnecessary. It was pushed out from the joining pieces as they merged on their own, with no adhesive. The ancient stone relic now rests on my table. Its immaculate surface and perfect shape could have been molded by a factory. This is all too strange.
Within Herbert's journal, we come to discover a very strange revelation. Herbert, upon finally visiting the chamber himself, retrieved another orb. As a side note here, and this is just my personal opinion, I don't see why in the July 3rd entry that Daniel wrote, he says his account confuses me greatly. If he has the orb, what are those pieces in my drawing room? He was already shown whenever he took the orb to the geologist that he's trying to rationalize these things. And while yes, his idea is that the orb has otherworldly powers, I still don't get why his first and most rational thought wouldn't be that they found another orb similar to the one that he has. Because as he says in his diary entry, he only read about Herbert bringing the orb to the surface. He didn't even see it as far as I know. So it's not like he saw an orb that was the exact same copy paste of the one that he has. But regardless, this is all just a little bit nitpicky. I just don't understand why he didn't rationalize it. That's about it. If I'm missing something here and there's a reason why he thinks it's the same orb, I just don't know what that reason would be, outside of the fact that there was just a description of an orb found in the same place that he found one. If you have a theory as to why this might be, or if you actually know the answer and know the lore better than me, let me know about it in the comments. Moving on from that though, the next note that we come across is really long, and while I'm not going to read it for you, I'm going to summarize it because it's essentially the same stuff we've been reading about, only this time from the point of view of Heinrich Cornelius Agrippa. In this note, he says that he finally found one of the orbs he had been looking for the past 20-odd years. He was staying in a village investigating some antiquated trails when he finally found the cavern. He went inside and retrieved the orb from its place. He describes that as he was leaving, there was a beast that followed him. He says that it bayed loudly and was relentless in its pursuit. He then describes him going to a nearby ravine, stumbling upon fishermen, and as he tried to warn them, he says that they fortunately remained so he could escape. He says that he heard their cries of pain and felt relieved, thinking that he would be spared. All of a sudden, a blue light engulfed him, and after running a ways and falling to the ground, he appeared somewhere miles away from where he had just been. Two things I'd like to mention: the teleportation and the guardian of the orb. It'll be here that I get into my first spoilers for the game, so as always, I encourage you, if you haven't played the game, you should go play it. But with that being said, for the rest of you who are still here, I'm going to briefly summarize for you one of the ending portions of the game. At the end of the game, you will find out that Alexander is trying to build a portal and use the orbs to do so. Not just a portal to teleport you a few miles like we see in this note, but a portal to another dimension entirely. But in order to do this, he has to harvest a substance known as Vita. The ending of the game gives us an outright explanation for how Alexander went about acquiring this Vita, but to stick with our chronological ordering of things, we come across two notes in this section here that give us a really big hint as to how Vita is obtained. Canis Lupus Familiaris, April 12th, 1658. After a short study, it is clear that the agitation found among humans can be found in the dog. Fear and pain induce stress, which seems to trigger an endogenous response, causing the animal to burst with energy. I believe that the catalyst is produced in the brain. It is difficult to determine exactly where and what it is, but I can sense it. It reeks of cosmic genesis. There's an inherent problem in harvesting this energy since the creature is bound to die from the exercise. I must refine this process of torture to enable any real work to be done. More experiments must be performed, but it seems that only human beings are able to produce the amount necessary. It might be their ability to appreciate the severity of the process that ultimately augments their experience of terror. January 9th, 1658. Further disappointment. The antiquarian's latest findings yielded nothing. I'm still unable to grasp the inner workings of life and its relation to the power I sense within it. I shall pursue more books on the subject, but I suspect it will be in vain. Since no research has been made in my particular interest, I must attempt to fill that void myself. Clearly, humans emanate more of the energy I seek, but I hope animals will suffice, as they would prove less of a hassle to acquire. As you've probably put together from the previous notes, animals indeed did not suffice. To put it short and possibly dumb it down, the way that you produce Vita is by extracting the terror from someone or something. As we see in this note, dogs can produce Vita. They just can't produce enough of it because they don't fully comprehend the terror of their situation. This idea will be elaborated on later in the video, but I want to bring this back to the previous notes by Agrippa, where he's describing teleporting away. As you can remember, he runs past some fishermen and they don't leave. When the beast that's following him gets to them, he can hear their horrid screams. What I would assume is happening here is the men are experiencing terror. Obviously, they're being mauled, ripped to shreds. They see a beast that they can't comprehend. This terror would then produce Vita, as we've come to find out. And I would again assume that this Vita that they are producing is powering the orb that Agrippa is holding. As he describes, the orb starts to glow and the color engulfs him. And when he describes falling and appearing miles away, he says, "The Guardian had taken the orb from me, but still until this day I fear its return." Whether he activated the orb on purpose or not seems almost irrelevant, and considering bringing this back to the Guardian for a second, I believe that this Guardian or beast that he describes is the shadow that Daniel is talking about following him. Because of this, I would like to draw your attention to a few diary entries that Daniel wrote to give you an idea as to why I don't think that this Guardian just spares people on a whim.
It's cold. 5th of July, 1839. Today, I went to the university looking for answers. I was able to sneak into Herbert's office and pick up an address book along with some relevant textbooks. Professor Taylor at the Faculty of History was very helpful, and I managed to approach the subject of the Orbs. The most interesting aspect was the prevalent trace they had left in our culture. The mythic orbs may, in fact, have inspired the globus cruciger, which so many royal regalia holds to this day. In ancient times, the orbs were held by priests as a symbol of the sun and its power. As I was leaving, I overheard a disturbing conversation. Sir William Smith, the geologist, was killed last night. Less than a fortnight had passed since I'd asked for his expertise. I know it's silly, but I can't help feeling responsible somehow. 14th of July, 1839. I've read every book I can find on the subject. While rich in legend and hearsay, my knowledge is lack for the insight I crave. I've sent letters to many in Herbert's address book and received answers of varying importance. Today, I got one which differed greatly from the others. From a baron in Prussia. He said nothing about the quaint stories of priests in underground temples. He didn't even mention them. He simply wrote, "I know. I can protect you. Come to Bennenburg Castle. Signed, Alexander." What am I to make of this? Protect me from what? Is someone after me? I looked up Brennenburg and traced it to the Prussian woods near the Baltic Sea. While being the least informative letter I've received, it causes me greatest distress and interest. As I write, my thoughts are drawn to my nightmares in which a most disturbing sound calls to me. A sound defying description. A voice from the void. The last few weeks have been awful, with so many sleepless nights dreading a repeat of those horrid dreams. Tomorrow, I shall visit my physician, Dr. Tate, in hope that he can provide me with sedatives to help me sleep. 17th of July, 1839. How has this escaped me? They're all dead. Limbs scattered, heads split down the middle, their skin flayed as if boiled. I feel like I'm falling into myself. What's happening? Sir William Smith, Professor Taylor, now Dr. Tate. Is it following me? How can it not be? It's the damn thing I brought from Africa. Something is after me. I have no choice but to trust the Baron. He better know what he claims. If he is wrong, I suspect he'll regret it as well.
And yet, despite these accounts of indifference when slaughtering innocent people who merely came in contact with somebody who possessed the orb, it would ultimately come down to the Shadow got the orb back, so it spared Agrippa. It wasn't because he was able to activate the orb. It wasn't because he had some mystical power. The Shadow, or the Guardian, got the orb back and decided that that was enough. And yet, after Daniel arrives at Brennenburg and with his subsequent talks with Alexander will once again describe the Shadow as an almost indifferent killing machine. Like I said earlier, though, if I had to hypothesize about anything in regards to the earlier entry as to why Agrippa was spared, it would be that he was able to activate the orb, but that's just not the case. If that were the case, neither Daniel nor Alexander would be in any sort of trouble if the Shadow reached them. I bring this idea up because, for one, it was what I first thought of whenever I was reading through notes and going through the game itself, but also to then bring it back to a concept that is similar, but one that requires a ritual as described by Daniel in his notes that does ward off the Shadow. But before the notes about the ritual come about, Daniel will also describe their work as being an attempt to permanently banish the Shadow itself.
4th of August, 1839. The nightmares woke me in the early morning, and for a moment I forgot where I was. Shortly after, there was a knock on my door. Alexander had heard my screams and asked me to join him in the parlor. As we drank our tea, Alexander began to tell me what he knew. It seems like the orb I found casts a long and dark shadow. It's not only a powerful item, but a dangerous one. Simply by touching it, you invoke the powers within, and if you are too weak to control it, it will devour you. The shadow is a sluggish thing, lagging behind the wielder, killing anyone or anything in its path to reclaim the orb. I said I didn't care about its powers, and that I should throw it away. Alexander advised against this, as I'd still be a part of the path to the orb, and eventually suffer death. Having the orb, I would at least have the chance to fight back when the time came. I asked Alexander what he meant when he said he could protect me, and he answered that things can be done, but at a price.
The price to be paid will be once again explained via Daniel's diary entries.
9th of August, 1839. I can't stop sweating and shaking. The warding ritual was not something of a sane mind. I did not even realize the dungeon was still in use. Alexander had his servants bring one of the prisoners, a murderer, he told me. Alexander made all the arrangements, but he said I had to perform the ritual in order to have the right effect. The shadow could be led astray by the blood of another. Killing the man would provide us precious time. What else could I do? Alexander said it had to be done. He is saving my life. I don't have the luxury of argument.
And from this note onward, everything will start to spiral within a matter of just 10 days. And not all of the lies and deceit that will cause this are all that subtle. One of them is stated outright in a memory capsule that we find, which states, "I fear for Daniel, for he is reckless. He is tainted by the approaching shadow and will not be able to pass the gate. Will he be able to accept this in the end? My love, I've seen evil in him. How am I to trust him with the truth? What cruel irony I have to do unto him what Agrippa did unto me." Just 3 days later, and during Daniel's next diary entry, we will see just how quickly he devolves from being very skittish about the whole ordeal to being manipulated enough by constant tells of these people being murderers, rapists, deplorables, whatever lie is being told to Daniel. It's enough to get him to grow a detachment from these people, but also a detachment from the things that he himself is doing to them.
12th of August, 1839. Banishment ritual is taking longer than expected, and we have to do what is needed. I spend my time helping out the prisoners. Being around these degenerates makes me ill. None of them even tries to face their punishment with any kind of dignity. They taunt me with their lies of innocence and their cowardly pleas of mercy. What can make a man fall so far from the grace of a civilized existence? They are all wicked men, and I remind myself of it constantly. Still, I am thankful for God sending these monsters our way, as they will serve as the instruments of my salvation. I try to study the different tools in the torture chamber and learn how to use them effectively. Last time was messy, and the effect suffered from my inexperience. When the next warding is to be performed, I shall be ready.
The irony in what Daniel says here is laughable. He describes what these men are with unwavering confidence because he was told that that's how they are. And putting aside what Daniel thinks about these people, I don't think that anybody who studies the tools in a torture chamber in order to use them more effectively is to be seen as a moral authority over anyone. And even if you want to put that aside for sake of argument, Daniel still says, "Still, I am thankful for God sending these monsters our way, as they will serve as the instrument of my salvation. Not these people will be punished for their crimes or their sins or whatnot, because they will serve as the instruments for his salvation." He only used the idea that they were murderers, rapists, what have you, to justify in his head killing them to save his own ass. But this whole charade will come to an abrupt end when his own moral justifications fail and he helps to kidnap and murder a child.
18th of August, 1839. Tonight, we will unlock the power of the orb and ultimately banish the shadow hunting me. I feel it closing in on me, and I fear for my life more than ever. Just outside Olstadt lies a small settlement where Zimmerman, a dairy farmer, lives with his wife and 3 children. We took the coach and went there. Our visit was unexpected, and Alexander was able to strike Zimmerman down without alerting the others. As he went to take care of the farmhands, I began to look for the children. We should have more than enough prisoners to finish the ritual now. of August, 1839. I cannot believe what I have become. One of the girls escaped and I chased after her all the way upstairs. I hunted her down, and what is her life worth? How many lives can I take before I surrender my own? Sure, I would kill a murderer to save an innocent, but to kill an innocent to save myself? A cold-blooded murderer.
With this, Daniel will proceed to plot his revenge.
19th of August, 1839. It's not fair. I'm not to blame. I've been manipulated by that demon. He played my guilty conscience and duped me into facing the shadow alone. That vile, conspiring man. He expects me to meet my death as he steals power beyond imagination? Alexander, I will kill you for what you have done. If only the shadow had caught me in London or Algeria, I wouldn't have to suffer this humiliation. You made me a murderer. A monster. And now, I merely await my death. I am too weak to press on. I can hardly stand as my knees fail me. I cannot see as my eyes are dressed in tears. I am as broken as the men I've tortured. If only I could wipe my fear away, as we did with them.
And with that, we come full circle. Our amnestic Daniel has returned to Alexander once again to end things for good. Only caveat being that there are 3 ways for this to end. The first, and probably most relevant ending, at least to what we were talking about previously, would be the one where we let Alexander go through the portal. To achieve this ending, all we do is sit there and wait for Alexander to form the portal and leave through it. Once this happens, the shadow will find us, and before it kills us, it will torture us with the voices of the people that we tortured to ward it off.
Please, let me go. I'll never tell you.
Thank you, my friend. Your sacrifice won't be forgotten. You will be celebrated forever.
A very fitting end for a cold-blooded murderer. But now the other 2 endings. The first of which comes about if we put Agrippa's head in the portal. And I'm not going to act like I know the entirety of the lore here when it comes to all of the portals and the different realms and how cosmic entities work in this game. But the way I see it is that by helping Agrippa, whenever the shadow will consume you, you will get some sort of grace from it. I know he mentions Wyver, and maybe Wyver's the one who spares you or helps you, keeps you safe, whatever, or maybe it's another cosmic entity that's explained in later games that I haven't covered because I'm doing the first game. I'm gonna have to make a video on all of the games now, aren't I?
But
No, you fool! You have ruined us!
he is. Do you see him, Vaya? He deserves so much more. Please, help him. I know you can. Don't worry, Daniel. It will be all right.
And finally, we have the most simple and straightforward ending, the one where Daniel causes Alexander's death by messing up the ritual and then leaving with his revenge plot fulfilled.
You killed us both.
It was my greatest triumph, and I never looked back. You think I was afraid fleeing Bennenburg? Huh. Quite the contrary. I knew it was my purgatory, hellfire made to wash away my sins. There's no denying the things I've done, but I have paid my tribute. I gave them that awful man. I did the right thing.
And with that, we've reached the end of Amnesia, The Dark Descent. I'd like to thank all of you who've made it this far, and as a side note, I know that there's a lot of cosmic horror stuff in this game that I kind of glossed over, and that's because I'm going to be doing Amnesia Rebirth at some point eventually, and with this game, there's a lot of horror that I think is better than the cosmic horror side, but with Amnesia Rebirth, the cosmic horror parts, from what I can remember, are more outright and essential to the story. So I figured for that game I would cover most of what I skipped over in this game in that video. And also Amnesia Justine, I will probably be doing that in one of my 3 short horror games videos. I had been planning on doing another one of those videos, but I've been having fun doing these longer games and talking about one of them, but I will do another one of those eventually. And finally, speaking of things that I haven't done in a while, I am planning on doing another story reading video. I got really hyper fixated on doing video game stuff and this all got pushed to the back burner. But I have been reading a lot of stories in my free time, and that's kind of inspired me to want to get better at narrating, because I do enjoy narrating the stories and reading them in general. I just think that I suck at it. But hey, I guess the best way to get better at something is by practicing. I might even have a few more surprises than just these video ideas, but who knows? If all of this sounds interesting, maybe you should subscribe so you can see those videos as they come out. And if you like this video, like it, leave a comment, let me know how I'm doing. And with all of that said, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a nice night and sweet dreams.